review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad. And with Halloween right around the corner, we decided to do something horror related.
Yes.
So we are going to, with the 5 weeks leading up to Halloween, we are going to go through a top 10 list of horror movies. So what we did was kind of the fashion of our show is to, review what's already out there and kind of give it our own rating, so to speak. So we found 10 different lists. The criteria for those lists were they had to have at least 50 movies ranked on them and also had to have been released in 2017 or later. The reason for 2017 is, in my opinion, as someone who's not a huge horror fan, I think one of the best horror movies of the last 50 years came out in 2017. So I thought it would only be fair if, said lists had the chance to include that film in them. So 2017 or later, and at least 50 movies on it. So we skipped any lists that are top 10 lists, top 20 lists, top 25, etc. And there are a lot of those. So we went through, and all the lists that we found had between 50 and 250 movies on them. And then we rank them accordingly. So the lists that we used were from Rotten Tomatoes, IndieWire, Collider, IMDb, Harper's Bazaar, Rolling Stone, Empire, Esquire, Newsweek, and Studio Binder. I know that last one probably seems a little bit weird, but someone cultivated a list of Studio Binder users. It's some kind of software that's kind of used in the movie industry, and these were all filmmakers. So a bunch of filmmakers kind of cultivated a list of like the top 100 horror movies of all time. So I included that one as well. On those 10 lists, there are 404 unique films to review in terms of points value. So films were awarded points for the number of times they showed up on the various lists and their overall rankings on those lists. So it's a ranking of both consistency and excellence. Mm-hmm. So out of that, we came up with a top 10 list. Mm-hmm. We're going to be watching those top 10 movies and giving a short discussion about it. We're not going to actually rate them because we've kind of already done that. These are the top 10 based on how we decided how we rated them.
Yeah. And just to clarify, the movies are for all time. However, we wanted to get lists that were published after 2017. So we're going to start this off. I'm going to start releasing episodes September 26th. You'll get 2 episodes per week. So I'm going to try to release them on Mondays and Fridays. So that way that'll lead us all the way up to Halloween.
And we'll still be continuing through our exploration of AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions. So that's not going to stop while we're doing this. This is in addition to that list.
Yeah, so kind of like a bonus list. And some real surprisers that ended up on the list.
Yeah, the one thing that I noticed, I was the one that kind of went through and analyzed all these lists because it's kind of what I do for a living. So analyzing things is kind of what I do. I found that there's a lot, like probably more than any other film genre, there's a huge subjectivity to what constitutes a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And also, there are so many different subgenres of horror. I think probably more than any other film genre. It has more subgenres than any other. I mean, you've got your slasher films, you've got your psychological horror, you've got your, blood and gore kind of horror, fantastical horror, real life stories.
For me, I have been a horror fan for a long time. I've read horror, I watch horror, and then I went on a hiatus because I was like totally freaked out by it all. And then I came back to it. And about a year ago, I went through and watched horror movies that were released during my hiatus and kind of got familiar with horror movies. And in that process, I discovered that there are, like Brad was saying, a lot of different genres of horror. One of them that's kind of the new thing is disturbing. It's not so much blood and guts. It's not so much jump scares, that kind of stuff. They're just like disturbing stories. I think that's kind of a newer concept for horror, and I think that that's been kind of happening now lately. Things that people are gravitating towards, but still really good. But yeah, lots of different types of horror. Some of it's just there to scare the crap out of you, and some of it's there for you to really dive into and think about what you're watching. So, so this is going to be kind of exciting. I'm glad that, for me, I'm kind of glad that Brad is doing this with me, because I have someone who's not as excited about horror. So he's going to probably kind of equal me out a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably my least favorite genre, and probably the one that I have the most gaps in. So I have seen a lot of movies. So I worked in video stores from 1993 until about 2003, somewhere in there. In some capacity or another, I worked at a video store during that time. So if it was on home video, I probably have seen it. And that includes a lot of horror films. But after I kind of stopped working in that industry and, I was working full-time and that kind of thing, I saw just fewer movies in general. But horror films, certainly. Like, probably the last 20 years, I've maybe seen, I'd say maybe 15 to 20 horror movies total. For me, like, to really dive into that genre, it's got to be an outstanding film. Not just a good horror movie. It needs to be a good overall movie.
I think, too, like, I would like to, based on the movies that I watched that maybe didn't make this list, I would like to challenge you to watch some that I find that are exceptional. Okay? Like, exceptional horror movies that I've watched.
Okay.
As of recently.
Well, the list, I can give you the overall list, because it's I just gave her the top 10, so she had an idea of what we were going to be watching over the next few weeks. But
okay.
I've actually seen most of the top 50. I was really surprised.
Wow.
Yeah, so and there are a few gaps in there that there's stuff that I haven't seen, but I was surprised. I've probably seen at least 35 of the top 50.
Okay.
That kind of surprised me, and I was completely surprised that I've seen all of the top 10.
Okay. Yeah, I have seen all the top 10 too.
Yeah.
So we're not going to tell you what's on our top 10. We're going to keep you in suspense until the next video, so so you'll be a little surprised. A little jump scare, if you will. So we're kind of excited about this. I hope you tune in. I hope you enjoy that, and you'll be receiving the first video on September 26th. So thanks for joining us. We will be releasing another 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time. We'll be dropping that probably on Tuesday next week, so look out for that as well. And so thanks, and we will see you soon. We're rating the list. I'm Jerry.
I'm Brad.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.